Tonight I keep coming back to one sharp, simple question. What does it actually feel like to be the first tiny species that tells an unbeatable empire no? It's a strange thought, isn't it? We grow up with these huge sci-fi powers that crush planets like soda cans. And they always feel distant. But imagine it's not distant anymore. Imagine charts on real screens, real names on crew lists, and somewhere out there is a fleet that has never ever lost. And you're the one ship that has to stand in front of it. I've always been fascinated by that moment when fear and morality collide. When every survival instinct you have is screaming, hit back, erase them before they erase you. And some stubborn part of you still says, we're not going to become what we're afraid of. That tension between terror and restraint, panic and clarity. That's the space this story lives in. So get comfortable, let today's noise fade a little. Because we're about to sit with a planet that just wanted a quiet, better century, and instead got noticed by an empire that erases entire species for being too loud. Out there is the Dominion, hundreds of years undefeated, fleets that have wiped whole civilizations so completely that even their names are gone. And waiting in the dark of a Martian shipyard is Earth's answer. One unfinished warship called the TSS Aegis, and a captain named Ryan Keller, who's about to walk onto a half-lit bridge and realize his planet has run out of places to hide. You're going to stand where he stands. You're going to feel what he feels when that first impossible demand arrives. By the end of this night, you will have stood on a bridge of glass and steel, above a blue world, staring at a fleet that had never lost a war. You will have felt a weapon strike you that should have split your ship in half. You will have answered a demand to kneel with a calm, quiet no. This is not a story about heroes winning easily. It is a story about a tired planet that refused to hide, single ship that refused to break, and a captain who chose mercy when fear told him to hate. Close your eyes if you like. Let the pictures form in your mind. The stars, the dark, the slow spin of distant planets. This is the story of the TSS Aegis, the Dominion Empire that thought it could erase Earth, and how the myth of an unbeatable war machine cracked in the silence of space. You are Captain Ryan Keller, and the galaxy is about to learn your name. The Dominion Empire did not start as a monster. Long before any human looked up at the sky with radio dishes and rockets, the Dominion began as a small star nation, afraid of bigger neighbors. They learned early that fear can grow faster than trust, so they built ships, then bigger ships, then fleets that filled whole star systems. At first they said it was for safety. Later, they said it was for purity. By the time Earth sent its first weak signals into the dark, the Dominion had ruled its part of the galaxy for hundreds of years. In that time, they had never lost a war. Not once. Every planet that tried to fight was purified. Every species that dared to resist was cut off from history, erased in record and memory. If someone spoke of them, it was in quiet tones, as a warning. The Dominion did not conquer to share. It conquered to remove chances. It believed that the only safe future was a future where no one else could ever grow strong. Its ships were perfect in design. Its captains were trained from childhood to obey, to calculate, to never doubt orders. Its leaders believed that emotion meant weakness, that compassion was a crack in armor. Over time, the Empire forgot what it felt like to be afraid. Far away, the earth turned. Clouds swirled over blue seas. Humans fought wars with each other, made peace, broke it, made it again. Cities rose and sank. Ice melted, storms grew worse. Then finally, after great loss, things slowly began to calm. By the late 23rd century, Earth looked up again. There were stations on the Moon and Mars. Dusty domes near the Martian equator held small green farms. O'Neill cylinders turned gently near the gas giants, each a long, spinning habitat full of air, water, and light. Tiny survey craft moved past the orbit of Pluto. Sensors open, hungry for data. Humanity had just begun to feel proud. It had survived climate shocks that nearly broke food systems. It had lived through political fights that once made global war seem close. In the end, fear of total ruin forced cooperation. New treaties bound nations together, not out of love, but out of shared memory of what almost destroyed them. That fear did something useful. It made humans imagine danger before it arrived. In a rocky orbit near Mars, hidden in the shadow of a captured asteroid, a strange shipyard grew. Official maps showed nothing special there. To most people, it was just another mining hub, another cluster of dull modules and metal beams. But behind coded gates and blacked-out windows, welders and robots shaped something new, the TSS Aegis. It did not look like Earth's old warships. No smooth hull lines, no proud colors. Its armor was layered and broken on purpose, full of sharp angles to bend light and confuse targeting beams. Its spine carried a railgun barrel longer than an office tower. Deep inside, near the core, were coils and capacitors built from years of quiet research into magnetic acceleration and new materials. The Aegis was not meant to invade other worlds. It had no landing bays for armies, no mass troop habitats built for a fear that could not yet be named. Its mission files simply said, "Deep Defense." On Earth, most people did not know this ship existed. They were busy with daily life. Kids in schools learning about both Mars soils and ancient oceans. Workers in orbital yards welding plates for civilian stations. Programmers training simple AI to run routes between moons and asteroid mines. It felt like the start of a calmer age. Then the Dominion heard humanity's voice. It began harmlessly. Old television broadcasts, leaking into space for over 200 years, formed a slow shell of noise around the solar system. Radio music drifted, fading past nearby stars. Radar pings bounced from planets and moons. For a long time, no one listened. But far across the dark, on the rim of a Dominion sector, an old automated sensor picked up a strange pattern, repeating bursts, narrow beams, changing frequencies. It alerted a patrol ship. That patrol ship listened carefully, filtered the noise, turned it into images and sound. The crew of that ship watched human faces for the first time. They saw people laughing, crying, arguing in parliaments, kissing in parks, dancing in sports stadiums. They heard songs in hundreds of languages, speeches about freedom and justice, news shows arguing on open channels. To Dominion minds, trained from birth to hide emotion, this looked like chaos. Reports went up the chain. The data reached the desk of a sector lord. Then the Council of Purity. Machines translated human tongues into Dominion script. Analysts played back years of signals at high speed. Analyst post. Analyst spring. Unfiltered emotion, they wrote. Lack of unity. Poor control. Object is a pre-hyperdrive species with high energy use, primitive weapons, and no central empire. They broadcast everything. It sounded easy. The Dominion had crushed star nations with fleets bigger than all of Earth's ships combined. It had erased quiet worlds that never sent a single angry song into the dark. So the decision was simple. A note went out from the council. A new species had been found near a yellow star. It showed high growth, rapid change, and no respect for silence. It could not be allowed to rise. Designation: Sol. 3. Local name: Earth. Status target: for purification. Fleet assignment: 7th Armada. The 7th Armada was old, but that only made it more deadly. Its crews had generations of victory behind them. Its flagship was the Crown of Judgment, a ship whose main weapon could cut a small moon in half. Around it moved cruisers, carriers, support craft, and silent killships, all shaped to serve a clear doctrine: hit first, leave nothing. As the Armada formed and began the slow jump path toward Sol, Earth stayed busy and unaware. But not for long. It started with a faint change in background radiation at the edge of the solar system. A long-range watch station near the Kuiper Belt saw tiny shifts in neutrino flux, subtle bends in starlight that did not match expected data. An AI flagged the readings as unlikely, but not impossible, then sent them up the line. The Terran Defense Command, TDC, did not exist yet as a strong group, but there were enough quiet links between old alliances that an alert could move fast when it needed to. In a secure room under the Pacific, representatives from the major nations watched graphs climb. They listened to scientists speak in careful tones. "These are transit wakes," said Dr. Celine Park, an expert in exotic drives. "Something large is entering the outer system, not comets." "How large?" a delegate asked. She gave a number. It was too big. The room went quiet. In the weeks that followed, the story leaked in pieces to the public. At first, people laughed at the idea of aliens. Then better images came in, tiny bright points moving as a group, holding strict formations against the background stars. Panic rose like a tide. Old fears woke up. People remembered old movies about invasions and secret bases, social feeds filled with rumors. Some said it was a trick by rival nations. Others said it was a test from a hidden human group. As data improved, those ideas fell apart. Not human, said every expert. On the moon, workers stared up at hard black sky, suddenly feeling very exposed. On Mars, children in domes had trouble sleeping under thin glass that now felt like paper. In the high orbits around Earth, crews looked out of viewports toward the outer dark, trying to imagine ships too far away to see. Governments argued. Some wanted to blast welcome messages, to show peace. Some wanted to power down every big transmitter and hide. Some wanted to arm every satellite and empty every missile silo. In those same meetings, other voices spoke up. If they can cross interstellar space, they have already seen us, said Admiral Jian Rao, speaking from an orbital command station. Our light has been shining for centuries. We cannot pretend to be dark now, but we also cannot greet a fleet that large with open arms. Quietly, the files on the TSS Aegis were brought up from deep storage. For years, the Aegis had been a just-in-case project. It had eaten money no one liked to talk about. It had been a symbol of old fear, put aside as Earth focused on healing itself. Now those old fears felt useful again. Near Mars, the hidden shipyard lit up. Robots that had been idle came back online. Human crews arrived on fast shuttles, faces tight with worry. Supplies moved in long, silent trains of cargo drones. The Aegis, which had been 90% complete, now jumped to the top of every priority list. Civilian jobs were delayed. Tourism flights were canceled. Fuel that had been meant for peaceful science missions was routed to Mars orbit. Inside the half-finished hull, Captain Ryan Keller walked through dim corridors, lit by portable lamps. He ran his hand along bare metal where polished panels would go later. If there was a later, his boots rang softly. Around him, engineers rushed to finish power links, sensor grids, life support loops. Some had families back on Earth. Some had no one. All had the same thought. This might be the ship that stands between home and whatever is coming. Keller was not the loudest person in any room. He had a calm face that did not move much, and eyes that seemed to be always measuring, comparing, planning. He had flown patrols near the asteroid belt, commanded escort ships for freight lines, and once led a small rescue mission during a solar storm that almost killed a whole research crew. He knew what it meant to lose people. He also knew what it meant to choose when to risk lives. Now, as he stepped on to the unfinished bridge of the Aegis, he felt the weight of something bigger than any past decision. Screens flickered to life around him. The main display showed a simple map of the solar system. Sun in the middle, circles for each planet, a faint dust ring for the asteroid belt. On the outer edge, near Neptune and beyond, a red arc showed the estimated path of the unknown fleet. Captain Keller, came a voice from a small side console. It was the ship's AI, still in a basic setup mode. Its tone was flat, almost childlike. Welcome aboard the Terran starship, Aegis. Status incomplete, but combat capable in limited conditions. Keller stood still for a few seconds, watching the tiny red markers creep inward. He thought of blue oceans, of crowded cities, of old photos of forests gone now, of the thin sky that made everything possible. He thought of what might happen if the fleet out there had no interest in peace. "All right," he said finally. "Then we finish what we can, and we teach them that this planet does not hide." Far beyond Neptune, space curved slightly as the first vanguard ships of the Seventh Armada slipped in system. Black hulls drinking in starlight, the empire that never lost was coming. The planet that would not hide was getting ready. The first meeting did not happen on a grassy field or under bright lights. It happened in orbit, in the dark, where humans had always looked so small. The TSS Aegis slid out from behind the Martian asteroid yard on a slow, controlled burn. Its hull caught the weak glow of the distant sun, turning its jagged armor into a shape that looked almost like a broken spearhead. Docking clamps released with dull thuds that rang through the frame. Cables fell away and coiled back into the yard. On the bridge, status lights changed from amber to green. Main reactor at 30% and rising, called Lieutenant Aaron Pierce, young and sharp-eyed, from the power station. Mag coils are stable. Railgun capacitors charging. We have enough for a full-strength shot in 20 minutes. Outer hull seals confirmed. Radiation shielding up. Captain Keller sat in the central chair. It was not a throne, just a padded seat with a wide view of the forward screens. Around him, officers moved carefully, each strapped in, harness straps crossed chests in quiet X shapes, ready for hard maneuvers. AI status, Keller said. The ship's AI answered in that same even tone, now with a little more detail. Core systems at 82% of design specs. Armor modules incomplete in sectors D7 through D9. Recommendation: avoid presenting that vector to hostile fire if possible. "So we have a weak side," Pierce muttered. "Every ship has a weak side," Keller said. "Our job is to make sure they never see it." Outside, Mars turned slowly below. A rust-red sphere with thin clouds shone. Habitats, stations, traffic platforms. Farther out, beyond the orbit of Jupiter, the Dominion Armada continued its steady inward course. By now, the Terran Defense Command had formed in truth. Old national flags still flew on Earth. In truth, Scan flew on Earth, but in high orbit, the logo above the main command room door was new. A simple circle for the sun, tiny points for the planets, and a narrow shield shape near the third orbit. Earth's leaders had argued for days straight. Many wanted to move all ships inward, to cluster close to the home planet and form a tight defense. Others argued that meeting the enemy earlier would give more room to react. Science teams fed data to the TDC, ship counts, drive signatures, energy readings. The numbers were not kind. Dominion ships by more than 10 to 1, Yet something else showed in the data. The armada moved like a perfect block, each ship holding formation to within a fraction of a kilometer. Spacing was rigid. Patterns did not change even when sensor drones from the outer stations probed closer. Overconfident, Doctor. Celine Park said in a briefing from her lab near Luna orbit, "They are not hiding. They are not scouting much. This is a force used to being obeyed, or a force used to fighting enemies too weak to matter." Keller added, as he listened in from the Aegis, "That might be our only advantage. They think they already know how this will go." The Aegis was the sharpest tool humanity had, but it was still just a single ship. TDC sent escorts, smaller destroyers, and converted cargo haulers with strapped-on guns to form a thin group around it. They would not stop 1,000 ships, but they might slow a few. As the days passed, humanity watched the armada draw closer. People on Earth tracked its progress with updated maps on every screen and public display. Teachers tried to keep lessons normal, but kids checked sky feeds instead of homework. Pilots on civilian routes flew with nervous eyes, glancing often at defense updates. When the 7th Armada crossed Saturn's orbit, they sent their first message. It hit every major receiver at once. Orbital arrays, lunar dishes, Mars relays. It came as a tight beam of structured energy, carrying a language never spoken on Earth. AI systems scrambled to decode it, matching patterns, building a dictionary in minutes. On the main display of the Aegis bridge, the translation text formed. "This is Admiral Varric Talon of the Dominion 7th Armada," it said. 3. You have broken the quiet of this region with your noise and your uncontrolled growth. You will stand down all defenses and submit to purification. You will power off all weapons. You will not transmit beyond your star. Non-compliance will result in total removal. Pierce stared at the words, jaw tight. "They don't even ask to talk," he said. "Straight to submit to purification." "Captain," the communications officer said, softly. "TDC wants us to answer. You are the senior ship commander, in forward position." Keller nodded once. "Open a channel," he said. "Same band, full power. Let's make sure every ship in their line hears this." A small light above the comm console went from red to green. A tone sounded. The AI flashed a status note. "Transmit, live." Keller sat a little straighter, but his voice stayed level. "This is Captain Ryan Keller of the Terran starship Aegis, speaking for the Terran Defense Command and the people of Earth." He paused just long enough for the translators on both sides to catch up. "We hear your demand," he said. "We decline. This is our home. We will not submit to purification. We will defend our star, our planets, and our right to exist. If you wish to talk, we are ready. If you wish to attack, understand that we will resist, and we will learn." When he finished, there was silence on the bridge. Somewhere deep in the ship, a pump hummed. A slight vibration ran through the frame as thrusters made a tiny adjustment. "Message sent," the comm officer said, "recorded on all bands. It took only a few minutes for the reply. "You are primitives," Admiral Varric Tallin's message said. "Your language is stained with emotion. Your refusal is irrelevant. Your learning speed is irrelevant. We have never been defeated. You will be erased. There will be no second offer." On the Aegis, Pierce blew out a slow breath. "Friendly guy," he muttered. The AI spoke up. "Probability of successful negotiation without show of force near zero." "I guessed that," Keller said. "All right, he thinks this will be quick. Let's give him reason to think harder." To stand any chance, the Aegis needed to stay alive long enough to show that the Dominion was not untouchable. That meant the science behind the ship mattered more than any speech. Unlike Dominion warships, which had smooth hulls and energy-hungry shields, the Aegis relied on layered, strange-looking armor and careful control of momentum. Its outer shell was made from a sandwich of materials: a tough ceramic layer, a shock-absorbing foam lattice, and heavy metal tiles mounted on flexible struts. Instead of trying to stop energy beams with a single hard surface, the armor was built to spread and twist force, to turn a clean hit into a messy, less deadly impact. Behind that, a secondary inner hull held vital systems. Between the two shells ran a maze of empty channels filled with smart gel that could stiffen or relax in microseconds. When a shot hit, sensors in the armor fired electric signals that changed the gel's state, redirecting vibrations around key areas. The railgun was the heart of the ship's attack power. It did not glow or crackle with lightning. Not on the outside. It was just a long, dark barrel mounted along the spine, surrounded by support struts. Inside, two parallel rails of advanced alloy ran down its length. When charged, they could create a magnetic field that hurled a solid slug of metal out of the barrel at tens of kilometers per second. No explosive, just speed and mass. At those speeds, a single dense slug could pass through thick armor and tear a ship apart from the inside with kinetic shock alone. But the railgun was hungry. Firing at full power drained huge amounts of energy, so the Aegis carried a ring of capacitors around its core, always charging, ready to dump stored power in a burst when Keller gave the order. Guiding all this was the AI, linked to a bank of simulation processors. This system ran millions of possible battle patterns every second, predicting enemy moves, suggesting firing angles, timing thruster burns. It did not command, it advised. Keller could accept or refuse its ideas with a word or a tap. "Captain," the AI said as the Armada's leading elements crossed Jupiter's orbit, "based on current speed and formation, the enemy will reach effective firing range in 6 hours, 22 minutes. Suggested plan?" Keller asked. "Maintain distance and use outer moon gravity wells to force slight changes in enemy vector. Avoid close range until a clear shot at a high-value target presents itself. Do not allow the crown of judgment to stable lock." "Agreed," Keller said. Then he added, "And when that chance comes, we take it even if it looks risky." Noted. TDC gave the Aegis a forward position near the orbit of Jupiter. Other human ships stayed slightly behind, ready to support or retreat as needed. Drones spread out, some broadcasting false signals, others scanning, feeding data back to the fleet and to Dr. Park's lab. As the distance closed, the first sight of a Dominion ship appeared on visual. On the main screen, a black shape grew from a point of light. It was long and narrow, with balanced curves, like a spear made by an artist who loved symmetry. Its surface seemed to drink in sunlight broken only by cold blue lines where engines glowed. "That's just a Vanguard cruiser," Dr. Park said in a shared feed. "The crown of judgment is still hidden in the main cluster." Admiral Varric Talon's face appeared now, for the first time, as a translated image. He looked almost human at a glance. 2 eyes, a mouth, a row of dark ridges along the top of his head. His skin had a faint metallic sheen. His eyes were pale and steady, like someone looking at a problem already solved. "Captain Ryan Keller," he said through the AI's voice filter. "I commend your bravery in speaking. It will not change the outcome. Stand down now, and your world will end quickly. Resist, and your end will be studied as a lesson for future cleansings." Keller studied him in return. "You built an empire on fear," Keller said. "You think that because you have not lost yet, you cannot lose." "I do not think," Varric Talon replied. "I know. You are a single ship. We are an armada. This conversation is courtesy only. Then, let history note that we did not go quietly," Keller said. "Aegis out." He cut the channel. The AI chimed. "Enemy weapons charging. Projected first volley in 3 minutes. Pierce, bring railgun to full," Keller said. "I want that barrel hot. All hands brace for impact. Helm slight angle. 20 degrees starboard present our heaviest armor." The Aegis turned, thrusters pushing gently, orienting the ship so its strongest plates faced the oncoming fleet. Around it, escort ships did the same, trying to form a rough shell. On the Dominion side, the leading cruisers adjusted position, still in tight lines, energy built along their hulls, brightening into focused lances. Keller asked. "Most likely, our main engine cluster and railgun spine," the AI answered. "If they remove our mobility and our primary weapon, we become easy prey. Then we do not let them have both," Keller said. The countdown reached 0. The first shot from the crown of judgment crossed the void. To human eyes on the Aegis, it was just a sudden, blinding line of white. Cutting through black, instruments saw more, a focused energy beam tuned to slice through shields and hulls with surgical precision. It hit the Aegis' dead center. For a moment, there was no sound, just a hard lurch, as if the universe twitched. Then the ship screamed, metal grown deep in the frame. Armor plates flared white, vapor spraying off into space. Inside, the shock gel channels hardened in microseconds, throwing the force sideways, up, down, anywhere but straight through the core. Keller's harness cut into his shoulders As the chair jerked, lights flickered. Alarms tried to start, then cut off as safety systems overrode them. No noise panic during a strike by design. Report. Keller said, voice steady but tight. Outer armor breach in sectors A3 through A6, Pierce shouted, eyes moving fast over his screens. Secondary hull intact. We've lost some maneuvering thrusters on the port side, railguns still charging. Reactors stable, we're alive. The AI added that hit should have destroyed us based on known energy outputs. Armor performance exceeds predictions by 12%. On the Dominion Bridge, Admiral Varric Talon frowned for the first time in many years. His weapon crews checked their readings. Direct hit, they said. Target vessel should be disabled. But on his tactical screen, the Aegis still moved, still burned, still aimed. Impossible, Varric Talon said. Again, finish it. As his gunners prepared a second shot, Keller saw a narrow window open. The first beam had given them precious data. Source vector, timing, energy drain. The AI ran the numbers, flashed a suggestion on Keller's side display. Captain, it said. The crown of judgment is exposed during its weapon recharge cycle. Firing our railgun now at full power, aimed at these coordinates, gives a high chance of crippling damage. Pierce saw the same plot, but if we fire now, we lose most of our stored energy, he said. We'll be slow to move after. If other ships target us, we might not get a second chance. Keller cut in. Varric Talon is the mind of that armada. Take him, and they pause. Even for a moment, that pause might save Earth. He looked at the main display. The crown of judgment sat at the center of the Dominion formation, huge and terrible, its weapon ports still glowing from the first strike. It had never failed to kill with that gun. Pierce, Keller said softly. Full charge. Fire. Pierce swallowed, nodded, and set his hands on the controls. Railgun at maximum, he called. Targeting crown of judgment. Forward core. Compensation for light lag and projected drift locked in. Firing in 3, 2, 1. He pressed the trigger. Deep in the Aegis, power dumped from the capacitors into the railgun rails with a roar of invisible force. Magnetic fields snapped into place, shoving a dense tungsten slug down the barrel, faster than any bullet humans had ever fired before. To outside cameras, there was only a brief flare at the barrel's tip. Then the slug streaked away, a silent dot of darkness headed straight for the Dominion flagship. On Varric Talon's bridge, alarms chirped half-heartedly. Primitive weapon detected, a sensor officer said. Low threat, our forward armor can. The slug hit. It struck not the smooth outer hull, but a slight curve near a structural joint, exactly where the AI simulation had said stress would concentrate. The metal there failed in an instant. The slug punched through, dragging a wave of molten fragments behind it. Inside, it tore across support beams, coolant, lines, and shield generator loops. The shock waves met, multiplied, and turned a whole section of the ship into a storm of lethal debris. On the Aegis, the main screen showed the Crown of Judgment flare with sudden light as internal systems went critical. Direct hit, the AI said. Massive damage to enemy flagship. Varric Talon did not have time to speak. Fire bloomed across his bridge as a burst of ruined coolant hit hot circuits. For the first and last time, he felt true fear, not at the thought of death, but at the idea that his primitives had hurt him. Then the Crown of Judgment broke. Panels flew outward. A long arc of its spine cracked. Sections of the ship's hull peeled away like petals from a burning flower. Across the armada, crews stared at their screens in disbelief. The weapon that had never failed had met a target that did not die. The ship that had never been touched had taken a blow that ripped it apart on every Dominion vessel. The same thought formed, though few said it. This is not how it goes. On the Aegis bridge, a stunned quiet held for 3 seconds. Then Pierce let out a sharp, shaky laugh. "We did it," he said. "We actually did it. We just killed their flagship." Keller did not smile. His eyes stayed on the tactical screen, watching the rest of the armada shift. "They still have hundreds of ships," he said. "Remember that. But yes, we did it. We broke their perfect story." He leaned back in his chair just enough to feel the harness press into him, a reminder that he was still there. Still breathing. "Transmit to TDC," he ordered. "Subject: Crown of Judgment destroyed. Proof that Dominion ships can be beaten. Tell everyone." Above him, the AI adjusted its internal models. The probability numbers it showed for human survival ticked up slowly from almost nothing to a few percent. On faraway worlds where Dominion rule had lasted for centuries, that story would travel in time. For now, only a few human ships and a damaged armada knew the truth. A single ship had stood against 1,000, and the galaxy's most feared empire was no longer undefeated. The destruction of the Crown of Judgment should have ended the battle. In human stories, when the enemy's greatest weapon falls, the rest run away. The hero wins. The music swells. Space did not care about human stories. After the flagship blew apart, the Seventh Armada staggered for only a brief time. Ships drifted a little out of formation. Captains shouted. Crews checked systems. New orders flew across tight beam channels. Then the Dominion did what it always did. It closed ranks. A new symbol appeared on the Aegis tactical display. A hard, cold glyph that the AI translated simply as New Command. A different ship. A heavy command cruiser near the Armada's center broadcast a short, strict code to every Dominion vessel. Lines on the human screen snapped straight again. The Armada slowed, then shifted to a different pattern, more spread out, less proud, but more careful. Adaptive, Dr. Celine Park said from her lab near Luna, her face tired and pale from long hours, showed on a small screen at the edge of the Aegis bridge. They lost their leader, but their doctrine did not die with him. They have depth, Can they still fire that main weapon? Lieutenant Aaron Pierce asked. No, Dr. Park answered. The Crown of Judgment was the only ship with that level of beam, but the rest of their guns can still kill us easily, just in smaller bites. Keller watched the plot. The Armada did not rush now. It turned slightly, setting a new path that bent around Jupiter's orbit and aimed for the outer regions again. Why are they changing course? He asked. The AI ran a quick analysis, projecting new vector. Destination appears to be the outer system, beyond Neptune. They are not heading straight for Earth anymore. Maybe they're scared, Pierce said, hopefully. Maybe they want to regroup farther out. Think about this. Maybe even talk. Dr. Park shook her head slowly. No. Look at the signal we just intercepted. Another message from the Dominion came in, this time not meant for human ears. It was encrypted, but human AI had learned enough to crack parts of it. Operation Silence. The translation device labeled a key phrase, reclassification of soul. 3. Objective changed. No longer simple purification. Full erasure. Remove all trace of species. No survivors. No records. No debris left that can tell a story. Keller felt a tightness in his chest. They were going to erase us before, he said. What is the difference now? The difference, Dr. Park replied, is fear. Before, erasing us was just policy. Now it is personal. We hurt them. We broke their perfect record. If our story spreads, other worlds might get ideas. Rebellions, Pierce said quietly. If others hear that, someone fought back and lived, they will not just kill us, Dr. Park said. They will try to scrub the whole solar system clean. No satellites, no stations, no ruins. Just empty space where a bright, loud species used to be. On Earth, the news of the Crown's destruction had spread like fire. It hit the global nets as short clips. Grainy images of the Great Dominion flagship tearing apart, mixed with calm, matter-of-fact reports from the TDC. There was cheering in streets and shelters, crying in homes, sudden hope in eyes that had only known fear for weeks. Teachers stopped class to play the official recording of Keller's first refusal, and the moment the Aegis survived the beam, children watched with wide eyes. Some saw Keller as a hero. Others saw the armor bending and thought, in secret, I want to build something like that. But hope was only half the message. The rest of the report made it clear. The Armada still had hundreds of ships. Earth was not safe. The Aegis was damaged. The enemy had changed tactics. In the great meeting halls where TDC brought leaders together, new arguments began. Some said, form a tight shell near Earth and the Moon. Protect the blue planet at all costs. If we stand that close, others answered, their beams and missiles can hit our cities. If they miss us, we turn Earth into the front line. We need to meet them far, far out. Dr. Park sent a simple recommendation. Set the main defense line at or beyond Neptune's orbit. The further out we fight, the more space we have to try things. We can use the gravity wells of planets and moons. We can pull asteroids into their path. We can learn. It was a risk. It meant sending human fleets into the deep dark, away from quick help, where repair docks were few and distances were immense. It also meant that if the line broke, there would still be time to try again. Closer in, Keller backed the idea. If we wait until they are at our doorstep, he told Earth and Luna in a secure call, they will come in tight, focused without room to maneuver. Out near Neptune, we have space to be strange. We can act in ways they do not expect. That is how we survive. In the end, the decision was made. The Neptune mine became a plan, then a place. Shipyards in orbit around Earth and Mars shifted to war work. Civilian frames got armor plates welded on. Passenger vessels were stripped and refitted with missile racks and point defense guns. Every old military ship that could be patched up was sent spinning outward on fast burns. They were not pretty. Some were simple fuel depots built from repurposed mining rigs. Others were stacked modules chained together with cables and struts. A few carried heavy gun turrets. All of them held people who knew they might never come back. Keller brought the Aegis into a high, slow orbit that crossed just outside Neptune's path. The big blue planet, made of ice and gas, turned below like a cold, distant marble. Its thin rings shone faintly. Farther out, the dwarf planet Pluto and other icy bodies drifted. Feels lonely out here, Pierce said, the first time he saw the live feed. That might work in our favor, Keller replied. No one else to get hurt if we miss. The Aegis had taken a hard blow at Jupiter. Repair crews had done all they could on the move, but some armor sectors stayed thinner than before. Life support had been patched in places with temporary hoses. The railgun coils had been checked, rechecked and finally approved for another full power shot. But no one had forgotten how close they came to failing. Dr. Park arrived in person now on a small, fast transport that docked with the Aegis. She stepped onto the bridge wearing a simple jumpsuit, her long hair tied back, dark eyes sharp despite the fatigue of endless math. She bowed her head slightly to Keller. Captain, she said. Dr. Keller replied, you picked an interesting time to trade labs for a front row seat. If we are going to test new ideas, she said, I would rather be close to the data. Also, if this goes very badly, I do not care to spend my last hours behind a desk. Pierce gave a short, dry laugh. So, Dr. Park went on, turning to the main display, here is what we know. The Dominion fights like a machine. Tight formations, straight lines, clear roles. Their AI likely punishes captains who improvise. They plan for clean, ordered battles. They expect enemies to either run or follow predictable patterns. Their weakness is not in their ships. It is in their thinking. Keller listened. And our weakness? He asked. We are outnumbered. Our ships are lighter. Our weapons do less damage per shot. Our crews are not used to coordinated deep space war. Our advantage is our mess. Mess, Pierce repeated. Yes, Dr. Two, Park said. We are used to disagreement, to surprises, to last-minute plans. Our neural nets can suggest strategies that look wrong at first. Our captains can say no to those suggestions if their gut disagrees. We can confuse them by not acting like a neat set of equations. She brought up a simulation. On the screen, tiny blue icons for human ships danced in wild patterns as a block of red icons, Dominion ships, pushed inward. At first, it looked like the blue side was panicking. Individual ships broke away, turned at odd angles, changed speed without warning. Then the pattern shifted. Some blue ships lured clusters of red ships toward thin belts of ice and rock. Others used Neptune's gravity to slingshot around the planet at high speed, suddenly appearing behind enemy lines. A few sacrificed themselves in close dives, getting near enough to drop bundled asteroids into the path of bigger Dominion cruisers. What you are calling human chaos, Dr. Kurds, Park said, is not random. It is guided by AI prediction, but not bound by it. We let the software run millions of futures. Then we pick the weird branches, the ones that feel just barely possible, but not insane. We show the enemy patterns they never trained. The AI on the Aegis spoke up. I have prepared a series of irregular maneuvers that use local gravity wells, debris fields, and short-burn engine flares to present random signatures while still achieving overall goals, it said. Some may feel uncomfortable to human crews. Pierce raised an eyebrow. Uncomfortable how? High G turns, the AI said. Close passes near large objects. Short windows between fatal and safe outcomes. However, probability of confusing enemy targeting and prediction systems is significantly higher under these conditions. So we survive by giving everyone motion sickness, Pierce said. Great. Better sick than dead, Keller said. We will train. We will warn our crews. No one flies in my fleet without understanding that their stomach is a small price for Earth. In the days before the battle, drills ran non-stop. Pilots wore pressure suits inside their cockpits. Medic teams set up in quarters with stretchers and injection kits ready for G-lock, G-force loss of consciousness. The AI ran allied ships through sudden acceleration curves, forcing them to practice sharp changes in course at the last second. The Aegis itself practiced firing the railgun while swinging its nose, learning how to time shots so that slugs curved just enough under gravity to hit ships that thought they were safe behind cover. At the same time, engineers across the system got creative. Asteroid miners volunteered to tug big rocks from the belt into slow paths near Neptune. They used mass drivers to nudge chunks of ice and stone until thin clouds of debris lined possible enemy approach routes. Old satellites were stripped for metal and turned into shrapnel bombs that could be detonated to fill a volume of space with deadly fragments, meant to force Dominion ships to waste energy on shields or careful flying. On Earth, people watched feeds from the Neptune line with mixed feelings. Some felt proud at the sight of so many human ships out there. Tiny lights in the darkness, banners from many nations painted on hulls side by side. Others felt sick at the thought that their future depended on a few slivers of metal and one damaged flagship. Keller felt the weight of their hope on his shoulders like extra gravity. Alone in his small cabin, one short sleep cycle before the battle, he sat at the tiny desk and opened a message file from his younger sister, Anna, back on Earth. The video showed her in a crowded shelter under one of the old cities. Concrete walls painted with bright images by kids' hands. She held her little boy, Keller's nephew, on her lap. "Ryan," she said, "if you are seeing this, it means you are still out there. I know you hate praise, but I'm proud of you anyway. We all are." The boy keeps asking if Uncle Ryan is out with the stars. I tell him yes. She paused, her eyes shining. "Come home if you can," she said. "But if you cannot, then just remember this. Don't let them make you into the thing we fear. Do what you have to, but stay you." That is all. The screen went dark. Keller sat a while longer, then closed the file. He looked at the small photo tacked to the wall. His family at an old beach, years before. Water and sky behind them, sand between bare toes. He whispered a promise to nobody in particular. "I will protect this. I will not become them." Then he went back to the bridge. The Dominion Armada came in slower this time. Sensors showed a wide, careful front, ships spread out to avoid being caught by a single surprise shot. They sent ahead more scouts, thin kill ships designed to slip fast and quiet. Estimate: 2 days until they reached Neptune's orbit at current speed, the AI said. Keller turned to Dr. Park and Pierce. "Then we have 2 days left to make them doubt every move," he said. "Let's show them the art of human chaos." The battle began before the first shot was fired. As the Armada approached, human drones darted in and out of their path, broadcasting false signals, flashing brief images that looked like dying ships or sudden explosions before winking out. Some Dominion captains ordered minor course changes to avoid these wrecks, only to find nothing there. Small, almost invisible clouds of debris sat in paths that seemed open. A few early Dominion cruisers hit them and had to slow down while armor crews repaired microfractures and replaced sensors. "These delays are minor," a Dominion officer said to their new admiral. "We will still reach target on schedule." "Then do not report them again, unless they become major." The admiral snapped, "We will not let these animals' tricks distract us." Near Neptune, human ships made their final placements. The Neptune line was not a straight line at all. It was a loose, shifting web of orbits and positions, with some ships hiding in the planet's shadow, others parked near distant moons, and a few drifting alone, far off to the sides. Looking like easy pickings. "This is going to look ugly on their sensors," Dr. Park said, watching the pattern. "Good." Keller stood, unstrapped, holding the back of his chair as he looked at the main screen. "All ships," he said into the comm. "This is Captain Ryan, Keller of the Aegis. You all know why you are here. Many of you were not built for war. Some of you came from passenger lines, from mining runs, from research fleets. You are scared. That is normal. The enemy is scared too, though they do not like to admit it. He paused, letting the words sink in. You are not here just to destroy. He continued. You are here to show that human life is not a mistake to be cleaned up. You are here to prove that we can fight hard without losing what makes us worth saving. Follow your orders, trust your training, but do not be afraid to think. Our chaos is our strength. Aegis out. The AI pinged. Enemy vanguard entering Neptune's outer gravity well, it said. First engagement in 10 minutes. Here we go, Pierce murmured. The opening moves were small. A pair of Dominion scouts sped ahead, aiming to loop around Neptune and scan the far side for hidden human forces. Keller ordered 3 light human corvettes to break from the main group and swing in close to the planet's limb, using its mass to bend their paths. On the Dominion screens, the human ships seemed to be fleeing or losing control, their trajectories messy and jagged. The scouts moved to cut them off at the last moment as the corvettes dipped behind Neptune. Their engines flared in carefully timed bursts. They shot out again at new angles, crossing behind the scouts and dropping canisters. The canisters burst into clouds of tiny, sharp fragments, stripped satellite shells, broken tools, ground down asteroid metal. The scouts slammed into the clouds at high speed. Alarms shrieked. Hulls pitted, sensors shattered. Engine bells cracked. One scout lost thrust and tumbled off course, spinning helplessly. The other limped away. Half blind. Contact, the AI reported. Enemy scouts disabled with minimal human damage. Next came the main clash. Dominion cruisers and destroyers pushed in, beams ready, torpedoes locked. They picked targets that looked important by size. The Aegis, a few heavy human carriers, the bigger stations. The Aegis did not stay where it was. When the first firing solutions locked, Keller ordered a side burn that sent the ship slipping downward relative to the plane of the system. Smaller human ships scattered in apparently random directions, some plunging inward, some darting up and out. From the Dominion view, the neat enemy line dissolved into a messy spray. Their targeting AI struggled. These movements do not match known doctrines, it reported. Recalculating. The Dominion admiral, used to clear views of battlefields, snarled, "Do not chase their ants," he ordered. "Focus on the largest clusters. Crush them. Order will follow." They tried. Beams lashed out, cutting across space. Some hit. A human destroyer named TSS Horizon took a full blast to its midsection. Its spine snapped, sections drifting apart. The crew barely had time to trigger escape pods before fire ate the air inside. A converted freighter, now a crude gunship, caught a glancing shot that ripped open its bow. It spun, venting gas and frozen bodies. The Neptune line bled. But the Dominion paid too. A heavy cruiser moved straight through what looked like clear space until a hidden human station using a blacked-out hull to reflect darkness. Stars. Using a blacked-out hull to reflect darkness, flicked on its drives and swung into view at short range. At that same moment, bundles of tethered rocks, attached to the station by long cables, were released and kicked with massed drivers. They swung like slow, heavy flails. The cruiser did not have room to dodge. 2 rocks hit, smashing armor, bending beams. The ship survived, but its forward guns went dark, and its neat shape became lopsided and ugly. All across their line, they are getting small cuts, Dr. Park said quietly as she watched the live data. Small cuts add up. The Aegis finally found its opening. Near the back of the Dominion formation, a new symbol appeared. A massive ship, larger than the command cruiser that had taken over. Light signatures screaming with power. The AI tagged it as the new central node. Not as big as the crown, but still a key, the AI said. If we can take it, their coordination drops again. Of course they built a backup boss, Pierce muttered. They do like layers. Keller studied the pattern around it. The ship, known in translation as the Judgments here, sat with heavy guard. We cannot punch straight through, he said. We will never live long enough to get there. Dr. Biald Park nodded. So we do not go straight. We slingshot. She brought up a fast Sime. The Aegis would dive toward Neptune, skim the edge of its upper atmosphere, then ride its gravity around like a stone on a sling, popping out at high speed on a new trajectory that cut close to the flank of the Dominion rear line. It is dangerous, the AI said calmly. Too low, and we burn. Too high, and we miss the vector. Can we do it? Keller asked. If human reaction assists at key points. Pierce grinned, a little wild now. I always wanted to surf a gas giant, he said. Keller took a breath. Set it up, he ordered. Signal nearby ships to give us a corridor. They can cover our dive with whatever they have. As the Aegis began its descent, human ships around it put out flares, launched decoy drones, and fired in all directions. From the Dominion view, the whole region looked like noise. Bright points, heat signatures, static. The Aegis dropped. Neptune's blue curve filled the forward view. Clouds swirled in strange patterns, deep winds howling below the thin line of visible light. Warning tones sounded. Altitude dropping, the AI said. Vector slightly off. Adjust 2 degrees port. Pierce's fingers danced on the thruster controls. G forces pushed everyone into their seats. Straps creaked. Doctor. Park closed her eyes for a second, then opened them again to watch the numbers. Thin wisps of upper atmosphere touched the Aegis hull, making plasma glow along the edges of its armor. Temperatures climbed. If the armor fails now, we cook, Pierce said under his breath. Focus, Keller said. AI, burn now. The Aya replied. 3-second main engine push, then cut. The engines roared. The ship curved, riding along the invisible bowl of Neptune's gravity well, then swung up and out on a new path. When it cleared the limb of the planet, the Dominion rear line was suddenly much closer, at an angle most of its ships had not planned for. Target, Judgments, the AI said. distance closing. They are still reorienting toward us. Small window. Charge railgun, Keller ordered. Full capacitors at 60%, Pierce replied. 70, 80, 90, rail ready. Fire as soon as you solve, Keller said. Aim for where its brain should be. Dominion ships tried to react. Several turned their guns toward the Aegis. But their firing solutions were rushed. Beams cut wide. Beams cut wide. One sliced past the ship's tail, boiling a small patch of armor, but not punching through. The railgun shot. The slug flew, space bending ever so slightly around its speed. The Judgment's hair had better armor than many ships, but like all complex machines, it had points of weakness, joints, ports, vents. The slug hit near a main sensor cluster and bored in deep, tearing through signal lines and command pathways. It did not blow the ship apart the way the crown's spine had broken, but it smashed its mind. On Dominion screens, fleet icons flickered, commands stopped updating. Coordinated fire patterns broke. Some ships fell back on local AI routines, others on nervous captains whose last full-dress battle had been a dull practice against targets that never surprised them. Enemy coordination down 30%, the Aegis AI reported. Their fire is losing focus. Across the Neptune line, human captains saw the shift. They pushed. Corvettes darted into gaps, lobbing torpedoes at exposed flanks, and then darting back into debris fields. Heavy human carriers sent out waves of small drones, packed with jammers and light guns. Converted freighters, lumbering but brave, moved into positions where their simple mass could block shots aimed at more fragile Allied ships. In one sector, a small mining tug, TSS Forgehand, saw a Dominion destroyer lining up a clear shot at a cluster of retreating civilian evac transports. The tug's captain, Mira Ose, did not ask permission. Burn everything. She ordered her engineer straight at that thing. The Forgehand, built to drag rocks, had engines meant to move huge loads slowly. Pushed to full, they groaned, but they moved a lot of metal fast. The tug slammed into the destroyer's side, its reinforced nose burying itself in the enemy hull. Both ships spun away, broken, into the dark. Sigwe spun away, broken into the dark. On the Aegis bridge, a small icon winked out where the Forgehand had been. Add her to the list, Keller said quietly. She saved thousands with that hit. The battle raged for hours. There was no clear front line, just clusters of struggle moving and breaking apart. Dominion doctrine, bent under pressure. Some captains tried to copy human maneuvers, but their crews lacked practice with disordered flight. Mistakes piled up. Human AI, feeding on constant new data, refined its predictions. It suggested crazy moves that started to feel less crazy as crews saw them work. At last, what was left of the 7th Armada began to withdraw. Not in a panic. Dominion ships did not panic easily. But their vectors shifted outward, away from Neptune, away from Earth. Their shots became more about covering fire than attack. They set course for deep space, bleeding drive trails, and debris. Are they running? Pierce asked, hardly daring to believe it. They are retreating, the AI confirmed. Though their mission statement has not changed, Operation Silence is not formally cancelled. They may regroup and return with more forces. But not today, Dr. Park said softly. Not with this fleet. Not with this armada. On every human ship, cheers went up, tired and hoarse, but real. The Neptune line still existed. Keller did not cheer. He looked at the tactical map, now full of wreck markers. Human, Dominion, broken, drifting. The cost of this victory hung in front of him in red and blue smears. Are we in shape to chase them? He asked. The AI calculated. No, it said. Our logistics, fuel, and repair capacity at this radius are too low. Pursuit risks, leaving the inner system open to other threats. Recommendation: hold position, tend to wounded, gather intel from wreckage. Keller nodded. Then we stay, he said. We saved Earth for today. That is enough. He opened a wide band channel. This is Captain Keller of the Aegis, he said. To all human ships within range, the 7th Armada is retreating. The Neptune line stands. Begin rescue operations. Any survivor, human or Dominion, gets a hand if we can reach them. Pierce turned to him, startled. Dominion survivors too? He asked. Yes, Keller said, his voice firm. We are not them. We do not erase. We do not leave wounded to die in the dark because they wore the wrong uniform. Dr. Park watched him carefully. That choice, she said quietly, will mean as much as any shot we fired today. In the drifting wreckage around Neptune, escape pods from shattered Dominion ships floated, their emergency beacons weak but still blinking. On those pods, injured aliens lay in cramped seats, bleeding unfamiliar colors, expecting either cold vacuum or a clean, merciful blast from their own side. Instead, they would see something new. Human rescue craft, patched and scorched, moving in with arms extended. The art of human chaos had saved a world. Now mercy would start to change an empire. It is full of slow-motion screams. Ships vent thin streams of gas. Broken metal turns end over end, catching far-off sunlight. Escape pods drift, some sending weak beacons, some already dark. Fields of tiny fragments stretch for thousands of kilometers, each bit a piece of something that was alive or carefully built. Around Neptune, after the Dominion retreat, the wreckage spread like a wide, broken ring. From the bridge of the Aegis, Captain Keller looked at the map of it. Human icons flashed yellow for damage, green for able to move. Many others were gray. Dominion icons, still marked in red, flickered or spun. Losing power. Rescue priority? Asked Lieutenant Pierce, his voice low. Keller did not hesitate. Closed pods first, he said. Human or Dominion. Anyone who is still breathing gets a chance. On other human ships, some captains paused when they heard that order. They tried to erase us, a destroyer commander said to her second in command. They would not do this for us. That is why we do it, her second replied quietly. Sir, with respect, if we start picking who counts as a person out here, are we that different from them? She looked at the field of wreckage, then nodded. Launch rescue shuttles, she ordered. Follow the Aegis lead. Small craft fanned out into the debris. They moved slowly, careful not to hit spinning metal or cross lingering lines of static fire. Some carried grappling arms, others had soft docking collars that could latch onto pods without tearing them. Onboard medics checked gear and set cots in tight rows. When the first Dominion pod was brought into the Aegis hangar, a hush fell over the watching crew. The pod looked like a smooth black seed, scarred by battle, with faint blue lines on its sides. It hissed as pressure equalized with the hangar bay. Docking clamps fixed it in place. Atmosphere inside is thin but breathable, the AI reported. Gas mix is within range for our emergency masks. Be warned, biological contamination unknown. Full deck on the way out, Keller said. Hazard suits for the first team. The outer hatch slid back. Inside, strapped into contoured seats, lay 5 Dominion survivors. They looked both strange and familiar. Their bodies were a little taller and more narrow than human bodies. Skin had that same faint metallic sheen Keller had seen on Varric Talon's recorded image. The ridges along their skulls rose and fell with weak, shallow breaths. Their uniforms were tight and dark, marked with sharp silver insignia. Blood, pale and almost clear, was dried in lines across faces and chests. Eyes flicked open as light flooded in. The lead survivor, a commander named Relvantis, tried to sit up. His muscles failed. Pain shot through his ribs. Above him, he saw humans. Their faces were bare, not hidden behind fearsome masks. Their eyes were tired, not cruel. They wore mismatched uniforms with different patches, yet they stood together. Rel knew Dominion doctrine well. He had been trained to expect certain things from enemies. If captured, he had been told there would be no mercy. Purification allowed none. Enemies were either erased or too weak to matter. He should have died out here. Instead, gloved human hands reached in to unhook his harness. A medic slid a support under his shoulders. Easy, she said. You're safe for now. Try not to move too fast. The translator on her belt worked hard, turning her words into a rough version of his language. The sound was odd, full of tiny mistakes, but clear enough. You are not finishing us? Rel managed, each breath sharp. Finishing, the medic repeated, then understood. No, we're taking you to medical. You're injured. Prison camp? He forced out. Well, figure that out later, she said. Right now, you don't bleed out on my floor. Rel stared at her, confused. You saved our people? Another Dominion survivor moaned from a nearby seat. We're trying, the medic said. Now stop talking. Breathe. Word spread quickly through the rescued Dominion crews. They had been picked up from cold pods, pulled from cracked hulls, dragged out of floating compartments where air was thin and alarms had long run out of power. They had been given oxygen, water, bandages, clean cots. No one had beaten them. No one had carved symbols into their skin. No one had thrown them back into space. Instead, human doctors ask simple questions. Where does it hurt? Can you feel your legs? Are you allergic to anything? Some Dominion officers demanded death instead. You shame us, one said to a human nurse. You should have left us to drift. The Empire will not thank you for this. We didn't do it for thanks, the nurse replied. We did it because leaving you out there would make us into something we don't want to be. In a makeshift ward on board the Aegis, Commander Rel Vantis lay hooked to monitors, a clear mask over his mouth. He watched humans move between human cots and Dominion cots without clear lines. He saw a human mechanic hold the hand of a crying Dominion technician who had just learned his legs were gone. He saw a Dominion medic, rescued from a different ship, help a human doctor tie off a bleeding line. Training took over where doctrine failed. The sight pulled at something deep in him that had been locked away since childhood. When Keller came to see him, Rel tried to push himself up again. Failed, then settled for a stare that was meant to be hard. You are their leader? He asked through the translator. I command this ship, Keller said. I do not lead all of humanity, if that is what you mean. We are not as tidy as your empire. Rel frowned. You had us. Our armada is broken. You could have vented us, left us. Yet you bring us inside, feed us. Why? Keller thought of Anna's message, of his nephew asking if Uncle Ryan was out with the stars, of all the faces on the casualty lists. Because if we start killing the helpless, he said slowly, we become more like the enemy we just fought. We didn't build the ship to erase species. We built it to stop that from happening here. You think mercy is strength, Rel said with the faintest trace of scorn. I think mercy keeps strength from rotting, Keller answered. Tell me something, Commander. Before this, had you ever seen a battle you did not win? Rel hesitated. No, he said finally. We trained with simulations. We crushed weak rebels. We arrived, announced purification, then cleared the field. There were no surprises. And your people, Keller said, what do they know of those you erased? Rel's face tightened. Nothing, he admitted. That is the point of purification. No records, no stories, no names. Keller nodded. That is ending, he said. You are here. Your crews are here. You will carry that back with you if you live. Even if your empire wants silence, you will have this memory. Rel looked away, angry. You think you can break the Dominion with kindness? He said. No, Keller replied. Kindness alone does not stop beams and guns, but it changes what comes after. We broke your flagship with a railgun. We broke your story with mercy. He turned to go. Captain Rel called after him. Keller stopped at the hatch. There will be punishment, Rel said. For me. For any of us who live to return. We lost. We were saved by the enemy. The Council of Purity will see us as tainted. You can choose what you do with that, Keller said. You can cling to their rules, or you can decide that a rule that demands you erase a whole world for daring to exist is not worth obeying. That choice sounds simple when you say it. Rel replied, It is not. Most important choices are not. Keller said, then left him with his thoughts. Rescue work went on for days. By the end of it, hundreds of Dominion survivors sat in secured sections of human ships and stations. Some glared, some sat blank, shocked by loss. A few watched humans with uncertain curiosity. On the dark side of Neptune, a temporary holding facility took shape. Linked modules with shared atmosphere, enough space for cots, food dispensers, and a basic comm system. Guards from many nations stood outside. Hatches, weapons ready, but not raised. Lawyers on Earth argued over what to call these beings. Prisoners of war, said some. War criminals, said others. Potential allies, said a few, earning sharp looks. Keller sent his own view. They are living beings who followed orders from a system that tells them compassion is weakness, he wrote. They must be held, yes, for safety. But they must also be treated with basic respect. How we hold them will be watched, sooner or later by the whole galaxy. On Rel's request, Dominion survivors were given limited access to news feeds, tightly controlled at first, then gradually widened. They saw images from Earth, crowds in streets, lights shining from shelter windows, kids in ruined playgrounds, holding makeshift signs that said things like "Thank you, Aegis," and "One Eye Still Here." They saw funeral ceremonies for human crews lost at Neptune, photos of faces shown on big public screens while names were read slowly. They heard translated the simple words spoken at those services. They fought so that children could wake up tomorrow. They died to keep our sky from going dark. They also saw something they had never seen before in Dominion space. Open disagreement on live channels. Politicians argued about what to do next. Citizens called in to shows and said they wanted to focus on rebuilding, not revenge. Others said they wanted to hunt down every last Dominion ship. No one was jailed on air for saying the wrong thing. No ship showed up to level the buildings where protesters gathered. "This is disorder," one Dominion officer muttered as he watched. "They cannot last like this." Yet they did last, Rel said, more to himself than to anyone else. Long enough to fight us, long enough to save us, long enough to show us this. On worlds under Dominion rule, the story of the Aegis spread slowly at first, then faster. News could not travel faster than physics allowed, but smugglers and quiet networks did their work well. Somewhere near the Dominion frontier, a captured human data packet slipped through a gap in patrol lines. On a mining moon where workers labored under harsh quotas, tired eyes saw the blurry image. A small ship standing in front of a huge fleet, a bright line of enemy fire, slamming into its armor, a railgun shot punching through a mighty flagship. The word "undefeated" started to sound less like truth and more like propaganda. On a forest world where the native species had been forced into tight reservations, kids sat around a stolen screen and watched Keller's calm refusal. "We will defend our right to exist." The kids did not know who he was, but they knew what it felt like to have someone speak those words while looking at a greater power and not shaking. Stories moved even where official records stayed blank. In the Dominion capital, the Council of Purity tried to control the message. They announced that the Seventh Armada had met unexpected resistance and withdrawn to regroup. They said the crown of judgment had been lost due to mechanical failure during a test firing, but rumors slipped in from survivors and from low-ranking officers with family in other sectors. An upstart species on a blue world, some said quietly. They heard us. Primitive kinetic weapons, others added, half amused, half unnerved. They flung a piece of metal at our finest ship and broke it. The myth of perfect victory cracked, not shattered. Not yet. The Dominion still had countless fleets, armies, garrisons. It still had worlds scared into silence. But a first hairline line of doubt had appeared. The empire that never lost had lost. On Earth, Keller stood on a stage inside a wide underground chamber. Cameras pointed at him, around the world and across the solar system. Billions watched. He was not good at speeches. He knew this. He preferred numbers, maps, quiet talks with small groups, but this moment was too important to give to someone else. The screen behind him showed a simple image. The Aegis in silhouette above Earth. One small line of text under it, "We endure." He looked into the nearest camera. "My name is Ryan Keller," he said. "I speak to you now from under our own sky for the first time since the Armada entered our system." He paused. "We did not win a clean victory," he went on. "We lost ships. We lost friends and family. We are still learning the full cost of the battle at Neptune." He let that sink in. Faces in shelters and living rooms grew solemn. "But we did something that the Dominion said was impossible," he said. "We stood. We held the line. We forced their fleet to turn away. The empire that claimed it could not be touched was hurt badly by humans who had never fought a war like this before." He thought of Relvantis in the medical bay. "We also did something else," he said. "We sent rescue crews for our own. And for theirs, we did not erase the helpless. We did not vent pods into the dark because they carried the enemy. We chose to save lives where we could." Some viewers shifted. Uncomfortable, others leaned in. "I want to be clear," Keller said. "Showing mercy does not mean we forgive what they tried to do. They came here planning not just to conquer us, but to erase all trace that we had ever existed. That is a crime beyond words. There must be justice. But," he added, "if we answer that by copying their methods, then even if we survive, we will have lost something vital. The point of fighting is not just to stay alive. It is to stay worth being alive." He took a breath. "So here is what I suggest, what I hope will become our doctrine as we step fully into this larger galaxy. Strength with restraint." The words appeared in text at the bottom of many screens. We will build ships, Keller said. We will improve our weapons. We will prepare for the day the Dominion comes back, or some other power decides to test us. We will not be easy prey, but we will also hold to a simple rule. We do not erase. We do not wipe out whole species. We do not silence every voice that disagrees with us. We fight hard when we must, and we stop when we can. We reach out a hand when the guns go quiet. He looked directly into the lens. To those listening beyond our world, he said, thinking of Rel and any others who might hear this later, know this: humanity is not perfect. We argue. We make mistakes. We hurt each other. But we also learn. We adapt fast. And we choose, again and again, not to let fear turn us into monsters. If you come here in peace, if you come here to erase us, we will resist with everything we have. And if you fall in that fight and live, we will not throw you away. He stepped back slightly. The Aegis will stay at the edge, he finished. Watching, guarding, not as a banner of conquest, but as a promise. Earth is not afraid to be seen anymore. We are here. We are loud, and we are not going anywhere. In a Dominion holding module near Neptune, Commander Rel Ventus watched the translated version. He felt something unfamiliar in his chest. It was not fear. He knew that shape. It was something more complicated. Strength with restraint, he said slowly in his own tongue, tasting the idea. An empire that chooses not to erase when it can. A younger Dominion officer nearby snorted. Star. Naive, he said. They will be crushed as soon as the Council sends a real fleet. Perhaps, Rel replied. Perhaps not. He thought of the crown of judgment, broken by a slug of metal from a ship that never should have survived its beam. He thought of human hands binding Dominion wounds. He thought of children on a blue planet, holding signs in languages that translators were still learning to render. If their story spreads, he said quietly, others will see that our perfection is a lie. And lies do not last forever. Far below, on Earth, Anna held her son up to see the screen as Keller's face deed and the Aegis image remained. That's Uncle Ryan. That's his ship. The boy pressed his small hand against the glass. Will the bad ships come back? He asked. Maybe, she said honestly. Someday, but if they do, well, be ready. People like your uncle will be out there. And maybe some of the bad people won't want to be bad anymore. Maybe they'll remember being saved. In orbit, the Aegis turned slowly. Scars from the crown's beam and the Neptune dive still marked its armor. New plates were being fitted. Internal systems hummed as repairs continued. The railgun coils rested, cool for the first time in days. On the bridge, Keller sat alone for a moment, the lights dim, the main screen showing a split view. Earth, bright and alive, on one side, the distant path where the broken Seventh Armada had vanished on the other. AI, he said. Yes, Captain, the ship replied. What's our latest projection on Dominion behavior? The AI paused. Based on current data, it said probability is high that the Dominion will attempt to restore its myth of perfection. That may include sending larger forces or increasing internal control. Do you think we changed anything out there? Keller asked. I do not know, the AI answered, but I can say this. Before the Aegis fired on the Crown of Judgment, the probability that any species would ever defeat a Dominion armada was near zero. Now it is not. And before you brought Dominion survivors aboard, the probability that they would question purification was also near zero. Keller smiled, faintly. Sometimes not zero is enough for a start, he said. Agreed, the AI replied. He stood and walked to the forward window. Stars shone, steady and uncaring. Between them, darkness waited, not empty, but full of dangers and wonders, not yet seen. Behind him, the crew of the Aegis moved back into their routines, checking systems, planning patrols, writing messages home, sharing quiet jokes, grieving in their own ways. They were not perfect, they were human. The TSS Aegis had faced an empire that had never lost, and proved that even the strongest machine can be surprised. It had shown that clever science and fast learning can turn a single ship into a shield, big enough to matter. It had also shown that mercy can be stronger than fear. In time, stories about this first warship would spread to hidden corners of Dominion space, to free worlds who had never heard of Earth, to kids who had not yet been born. Some would call the Aegis a weapon, some would call it a symbol. But for humanity, it would always be something simpler. The ship that stood up, did not break, and chose, in the darkest hours, not just to survive, but to stay kind. Out beyond Neptune, the last pieces of wreckage from the Seventh Armada drifted into the long night. On a small blue world beneath thin air and bright clouds, life went on. The empire that never lost had been forced to learn a new story, and the planet that would not hide had taken its first unsteady steps into a larger, more dangerous,